Hello, Marcus Glory Girls,
Hello.
and welcome to our Errata-sode.
Yes, the Errata podcast
The
YouTube
GG
show
Errata-sode.
thing.
Oh God, it's you tripping over your words tonight.
It's not. I know what I'm saying. It's fine. The point being is we're recording this after we've recorded the Errata call with Bryce.
Yeah,
So
Bryce
in a
is
second.
he's
Sorry.
now what's it called? He's like a common contributor now to the podcast. We haven't done podcasts for months and months, and then this is our second one in like a 2 to 3 week period, and Bryce has been on both of them.
Exactly. GG Bryce.
GG Bryce.
So anyways, we will effectively be handing over to Pastors and Bryce in just a second.
So yeah, just one thing to say beforehand is that in the interview with Bryce, we're going to assume that everyone's read the cards, or had a look at the cards. So we're going to kind of be discussing the changes of the cards, the kind of feel of the cards, and like the intention of them, rather than going that has moved from column 2 to column 3. That has been reduced from that to that.
I think there's going to be enough channels and enough content creators who will run through the exact changes with a fine-tooth comb. We'll kind of just take it from a different stance and just say, right, okay, you've seen these cards. We'll use our time with Bryce a little bit more constructively and go over the reasons why or the tactical aspects and things like that. So we'll go in a little bit more depth, but obviously not insult your intelligence and presume that you can't read the cards yourself.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I suppose we could do a little plug for our GG Masters.
You ripped me last time for doing a plug.
God, you do the plug.
No, you do it. Go on. I did the last one.
Oh, hang on. I'm not prepared for this. We still have some tickets remaining for the GG Masters in November. It's November the 22nd to the 24th in Nuneaton in the Midlands.
Chase Hotel.
The Chase Hotel. So basically, it's on the Saturday and the Sunday, there's a 64-man event with the winner getting a WWE-style GG belt that we're getting made up at the moment. Everyone's getting a goodie bag that we've been leaking pictures with like our custom resin GG gold, GG momentum coins that Ian
which we
Torrance
totally steal from SFG.
No, it's just a coincidence that we've got those. But yeah, and then on the Friday, we're looking at doing like a full day of open gaming
for multi-system.
Multi-system, yeah. So you can bring whatever you want, whether it's Warcry, people bring an Aristea. That's how you say it, isn't it? Aristea. God tier. I was talking to Steve Margerson to see how doable a campaign day would be in a short period of time on the Friday, and apparently it's quite doable, so we may do that. Also, we're looking at doing like a snake draft or something like that. Well, GG Dave and the boy, we're going to run that, maybe, hopefully.
Exactly.
Yeah, so for the
weekend.
What'd you say, sorry?
There's going to be plenty to do over the weekend.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, so the room
Saturday.
Yeah, so so we've got 2 rooms booked for the 64-man, so it'll be one room that will probably hold about probably 40 of the 64 people, and then the second room, which will hold about 24 of the rest of it. If you're in the top, say 40, the room that you're in, that bar will be staffed. The bar will be staffed, so you won't have to go far for your beer.
Exactly, which is always a bonus.
So it's a venue that we use for every
Saturday.
Oh yeah, we'll put a buffet on the Saturday and that to save. Try and keep the costs down for everybody. And also there's rooms available because it's a hotel as well, and they're relatively cheap, but they are filling up quite quickly. But if that does fill up, then we have got there are other hotels in the local area that's relatively cheap. You've got the Long Shoot up the road, which is I think around £40 a night or something like that. It's under £50 a night, so it's not expensive. And yeah, I think that's probably it in terms of plugging it.
So we'll hand over to our past selves.
Yeah, so we'll hand over to the past selves. I'm probably going to leave the intro in because we tried to do it all in one go, but I was sabotaged by Rich and Bryce. They both tried to sabotage me. So yeah, we'll catch you. Enjoy the interview and we'll catch you afterwards. Cheers.
Bye.
Hi. So
That
as
was a good
we,
start.
hi, Rich, right, right. Oh, for God's sake.
Just leave this in. Leave it in. People
Right.
expect
So
it.
as mentioned earlier, here's our interview talking on our big errata episode with Bryce. Hi, Bryce. Welcome back.
Hello, it's nice to
We
be
didn't
back
scare you
again.
First time.
What?
We didn't scare you off the first time.
No. I mean, you did your very best, but you've managed not to freak me out too much, at least.
Wow. We've got a bit. Yeah, we've got another one. This is probably gonna be quite. Well, hopefully we won't go on too many tangents because there's quite a lot to cover.
Yeah, there's a lot to go over in this one, isn't there? Like,
Yeah.
so.
We had the general idea that by the time people are listening to this, they'll have seen the cards. So we don't really need to go through them individually because we're presuming people can read. So it's probably just best to touch upon the ones that people are going to talk about the most.
Cool. I mean, I am very keen for whatever you want to do. I just want to talk about toys. So.
Awesome. So overall, then. Right. So overall, then it's like a massive, ambitious, like mid-season errata. It's probably the biggest one to date.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely the biggest one to date. And it's because I think we indulged ourselves because we have the digital cards this time. And so it felt like we had a bit more freedom to make more smaller changes that previously in older erratas we weren't worth justifying because someone's card's out of date and then like it's just a bit of a pain. But because we've got digital updates now and we don't have we don't have physical cards, it gives us a lot more freedom to just make those little like quality of life changes.
Yeah.
And so you'll notice like for all this is it's an odd one this because it's technically the biggest errata we've ever done, but if you look at like large scale changes, there's only like there's a couple, there's like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But actually the vast majority of the changes are smaller kind of just little like quality of life tweaks here and there that are some of them are very specifically intended to affect certain matchups as well.
Okay, that's interesting. So you got an example of that?
Eb's absolutely the best example of that. Just because obviously like the navigators, because of how their playbook construction works and their momentum generation works, they loathe armor with a passion. Which I always hate as a farmers player because I'm playing as navigators and I'm like, yeah, just choose the playbook result you want. You don't
just have anything.
Yeah, just have anything, mate. Oh, you got a wrap? Yeah, batter in. Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. Like,
that's cool.
But it means against higher armored teams like engineers, blacksmiths, masons, navigators can sometimes struggle to hit even to generate momentum, without charging, and even charging it can sometimes be difficult for them. So just increasing the armor debuff by 1 on Sprung Leak just makes some of those matchups a little bit better for them,
Yeah, definitely. Because that's what you were saying, Rich, because you played Navigators for a little bit, you took them to Vengeance, that your biggest hatred is what? Iron and the Sentinel in cover with the ball?
Yeah. And that's...
When you've got Siren to sort of take the ball away, that's okay. But then when you factor in Burnish, you're just in a world of pain.
Yeah. And you're struggling in that instance, and so reducing that armor by an extra 1, just especially if they're bunkering up, so you can hit like multiple models, and it just gives you a bit more freedom to actually interact with your opponent and to get the ball.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of damage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You can ping some damage out on them, and like particularly that's a weird matchup because a lot of the blacksmiths are good at holding the ball, but if you ever catch some of those apprentices out of Sentinel auras because they're quite low health, actually Windfinder can take them down.
Yeah, Azimuth can put them in the bin quite comfortably when he starts rapping. And
yeah, exactly. So like the combo of like Azimuth and Windfinder means like the blacksmith player now just has to play a little bit more cautiously in that matchup, I think. And the navigator player just has a bit more freedom to actually engage.
Yeah,
exactly.
Eb's a really good one. So, in terms of other like global changes, there's been a couple of wording ties up, but the biggest one's probably the removal of Charmed in game.
Yes, absolutely. Charm just felt like the intention was sort of nice and it was characterful, but it just felt we just have grown increasingly, like personally particularly, we've got increasingly uncomfortable with representing like sexuality and gender in hard rules language like that. Because none of that impacts your ability to play football, and none of that should impact your ability to interact in a game of football.
Yeah.
And it really just it was something we've been uncomfortable with for a wee while, and when we sort of looked at this errata, we were like, well, let's just strip it because it's only on like six. I think it's six models were affected. And it's just it's just a good change for the game. I think it's a positive change overall.
Yeah, and it's worked quite well because then I think probably the models who didn't need it have kept the defense the same, and the models who probably did need it have got like a buff, like Siren getting a death buff, Harrow getting a death buff, the Briskets remaining the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
only OG Brisket had it. So is there any particular reason why she didn't go up, or is it just because she's got an armor?
Basically because we actually Brisket was actually one that we tested other defensive buffs on, like heightened senses was one, which is the vet minx rule where if they're damaged, then she got +1 death. But in butchers that practically meant
she was just
she was just
always 5/1.
Yeah, exactly. And when she also has other defensive tech, like in the form of unpredictable movement, we felt overall it was just making her a bit too tough, like especially in butchers where they're not supposed to be tanky. And she was just a little bit too good at that, so we added I think a health box to her. But she was one where we tested other changes, and it was just like, no, do you know what? She doesn't need this. Like she still brings dirty knife. She still brings above and above and beyond. Yeah, like she still brings enough that she doesn't need an additional death buff on top of that. Whereas, like as you say, models like Siren
do.
Exactly. Like Siren and Flint were exactly. Like Siren and Flint were the ones that we were just like, yeah, okay, they can just get +1 death.
Yeah.
Because it feels very punishing when they don't get that +1 death.
Yes. So as a Mason player, I'm very happy, obviously, that Flint's gone up to a 4/1. What was the design decision between giving him that tackle on the first success as well?
The
dodge. The dodge on his tackle. That's what I want to say.
Largely just because his card hasn't been meaningfully updated since Season 1. And where Flint is supposed to be... He's supposed to be one of the premier strikers in the game. You know, like in the first couple of seasons in the background, Flint was like the god of striking. He was the king of scoring goals, and that translated into the tabletop game of him missing every shot he took. I'm pretty certain.
He missed the one in the final, and then he lost Super Shot in Season 3, weren't it? I think.
Yeah, but he did go up because he was originally 3/8. In Season 1 with Super Shot, and then he went up to 4/8 base but lost Super Shot. And really just he's intended to be that kind of premier goal scorer, and we felt he wasn't quite doing that anymore, so just giving him that tackle dodge on Season 1 and on the front of his card, because his card is still very bare of actual rules.
He's still quite basic, isn't he?
Yeah, like he has where they go, and he has close control, and I think that's it for his card. Like I don't think there's any other rules on his card.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So when you're dealing with a model that doesn't have special rules, you have a bit more room to play with in terms of their actual stats, and their playbook can be better. And that's something that, for instance, is kind of the opposite of farmers, for instance, because they tend to have poorer stats but have special rules to make up for it. Whereas like you'll notice a lot of the Season 1 models particularly have just sort of generally good stats, but then don't have a ton of special rules.
Yeah.
So, just one last one to touch upon the charmed rule. I presume a Def 5 Tater would have been just too much.
He was one that... So, obviously, I've been playing Farmers a lot, and whenever a female model was attacking Tater previously and he was Def 5, I was just like, this is silly. Like, he's Def 5 with 16 boxes, like, that is just too good. Like, his defensive stats are just too good. So he did get the trade-off of gaining a couple of health boxes, largely because like farmers are intended to have slightly higher health pools than average and lower defensive stats. So he's now just 4-0 all the time, but has 18 boxes, which is much more in line with the guild. And also, yeah, there was never a chance of him keeping the 5-0 stat line. Like, because we test, like, I was going to say we tested it. We didn't. Like, I've played enough games with Tater to know that when you're fighting against female models, that just felt so punishing for the opponent.
Yeah. Cool. Right. So, let's just get the boring ones out of the way then. The ones that we were discussing that kind of feel like they've just had the little clarification. So that would be Vitriol, Vet Chisel.
Yes. Yeah, that's the main ones, and Corker as well.
We were now. I'm glad you brought Corker up. So, yeah, obviously we've clarified the
Legless Drunk.
Legless Drunk. Yeah. Did you not feel that Corker needed a little something else, or is there going to be like a change to the beer tokens or something along those lines? Because he still feels quite powerful.
I think Corker is definitely very powerful. I don't think that he is over the top the same way some of the captains this Narata were. I just actually went, because we started talking about him, I just went and looked at his win percentage on Longshanks, and it's 52%, which is, given that we sort of try and aim for between 45 and 55.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, and there are exceptions to that where we kind of have to go, right, okay, so blacksmiths, actually, to digress just a very little, blacksmiths are an example of where they have an overall kind of average win rate, but at the top levels of play, that gets skewed dramatically. Yeah. So, because I think there's three players like Fraser McFetridge, Steve Easton, and Al Johnston, who I think are undefeated with Anvil receiving in Season 4. Wow. And I think they might have dropped like one game between the three of them. And sort of when you get to that top level of play, you're kind of like, okay, there is a problem here. And so you can't just look at overall win rates, but one of the first things we always do when looking at any errata is to look at the top levels of win rates and the bottom levels of win rates and try and kind of even those out. And yeah, so Corker is currently on 52% win rate. He's not tearing up the world. Like, he's doing well, but he's not like completely blowing the world up with how incredible he is. He's definitely one that we're keeping an eye on. I think it's fair to say.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and it might be something that we look at if it proves to be a problem in future. We might take a look at him and going into maybe the next errata. That's the kind of space we're looking at. But for now, we don't think Corker needs anything else.
I think you've had a couple of bad experiences against him, haven't you, Rich?
Yeah, to be honest, like most of his card and most of his rules, I think is absolutely fantastic. It fits thematically. Albeit said, I'm surprised he wasn't 2-inch. But as far as everything else goes, I think it's fantastic. I think it's just his heroic that sort of grinds on me. I think spending one momentum to effectively get the momentum, the beer token to do it again next turn, so you then don't need to spend the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like spent. If you look at Vet Graves, for example, he can spend one momentum to give 2 influence to a mascot.
Mm-hmm.
Corker's spending one momentum to give effectively what could be 5 or 6 influence spread between his team.
Yeah,
I think that's supremely powerful, and it can be put to some very, very good use. So,
I think that's very fair. And as we say, like, it's kind of that thing of captains are allowed to be strong, and particularly,
I agree.
Yeah, and particularly when you were exploring design space like with Corker and the beer tokens that we haven't previously explored, there's always going to be a bit of adjustment there.
Yeah.
But also,
So
sorry, go on.
no, I was going to say, so maybe the issue, maybe from what Richard said, maybe the issue isn't with, say, Corker per se, but is it perhaps the potential 6 influence Vet Decimate, the potential 5 influence Hooper, that type of thing?
To be honest, it's what you can spend it on. Do you know what I mean? So by just having one of those beer tokens, sort of like Stave can put out his barrel lob, which isn't exactly one influence. It's also the flexibility of what it brings. Sort of, yeah, I can use it to buy an attack. Yes, I can use it to buy in a character play. Yes, I can use it to do a heroic play. It's like giving out. It's not just giving out that much in sort of air quotes influence. It's the flexibility that it brings. And we all know that the best characters are the ones that bring more flexibility to the playstyle.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And he does have a lot of flexibility. The trade-off being that it really takes him a couple, like it's turn 3 or turn 2 realistically before he can get that train rolling. Yeah. And so you definitely have to. There's a difference in playstyle when you're playing against Corker because he gets stronger the longer the game goes on, or rather he builds up to turn 3, has an incredible turn 3, and then if he spent all those beer tokens, he has to spend 2 more turns kind of building everything up again. Yeah. And that's the kind of the tempo of the game is very different. And yeah, I think you kind of need to play a little bit more aggressively there and try and kind of take advantage of the fact that like on any given turn his team only has 11 influence to play with. So particularly on turn 1 before they can get the beer tokens out, you don't have the same resources as any other team does, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say he's absolutely very good. And he's sort of he's on a watch list basically. But we didn't think it was a big enough problem at the moment to kind of justify actually going in and making more changes to him.
Yeah, that's currently cool. We've had 1, 2, 4 of the new captains have had little tweaks, so probably 5 may have been a little bit too much. Is Yukai and Corker they're the only ones who haven't been touched? Let me think.
No,
Cutlass
didn't get touched.
Beg pardon?
Culverin didn't get touched.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, Culverin
didn't get touched. Yeah, I think because it's interesting because the brief for the new captains was to sort of look at new design space, right? So that's why we went in and started doing the like the pitch wide rules, because that was design space we hadn't really explored before, except during the what was it called, the guild identity cards.
Oh yeah.
And so that was something we explored earlier in a different form, and we were like, this is actually a kind of cool place that we can go to look at for these new captains. But the other brief was to push the limit basically, because captains, we knew from season 2 that new captains, season 2 and 3 I should say, new captains are often a little bit under. Just when they first come out, compared to the existing choices in the guild. And so part of the brief for these was to push it. Just push it just a little bit. And like, we knew we had these 6-month erratas as a kind of, as an emergency break if anything was over the top. Like, obviously Vetborg or Belly is the ones that are are over. But even if something is a little bit over when it first comes out, you'd be surprised how much sometimes it's over by less than you thought it was going to be, or sometimes it's actually fine when you thought it was going to be over or under. Like, I think Yukai is actually a really, really good example of a captain who, when they came out, there was a lot of like, oh, I don't get it, this captain seems bad. And now, 6 months later, you're starting to see people do really well with them because they're a captain that rewards patience and rewards, like, none of what they do is direct. It's all very kind of unlocking the options and seeing how to look into the matrix of how you play the game, right?
Yeah, you've got to put
Yeah.
the reps in, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, cool. So I think the big two, obviously the big two captains that have got changed are Bora and Corbelli, as you sort of alluded to. I don't think many people really sort of are going to be shocked by what's changed on Bor.
I would hope. I would hope not. I like certainly. I think a lot of the problems with Bor are the ones that a lot of people have identified over the last 6 weeks, over the last 6 months or so.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the second column was the issue for me. I think
Yeah, 'cause
the one
you're gonna get
damage
it on
in
wrap.
Guild Ball.
Yeah. It was just a little bit too easy for him to kind of get everything he wanted.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So it's going to slightly tone down his damage, because obviously on the wrap you're not all the time are you going to go for that one damage singled out or stagger.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of forced different choices. But then obviously on the fifth column that was quite a big drop.
Yeah. He just he really just needed to be a little bit harder to get the most out of.
Yeah.
Really, I think that's kind of the fundamental problem with Bor, was just he was very, very simple. Like, I think he's the peak sort of point and click model captain in Guild Ball.
But then obviously we've dropped his move as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
4-6.
Yeah.
And then his influence to 3-2. So I think that really does address all the issues without.
I think that addresses a lot of his issues. Yes.
Without pulling his teeth too much, because if you went too hard, then you'd never see him again, which would be a shame. Because I think he's still a really useful piece, and I really like the support aspects he gives to the other teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably, to me, it just means you're probably not going to see a massive Bor turn every turn. He might give a little bit more love to his friends. Do you know what I mean? Like, his teammates might get a little bit more action instead of Bor getting loaded up and going in and doing all the heavy lifting.
Yeah. I think it is going to force him to play more the way he was intended to be played, where he is an easily controllable bot. He has extremely high damage output himself, and we did bring that down a little bit with the character play changes on his playbook. But one thing I like is that we didn't have to hit any of the red numbers on his card.
Yeah.
You know, because he's still Bor, right? He should still be like an absolute...
It should hurt when he hits you.
Yeah, exactly. He's still an absolute death-dealing monstrosity, you know what I mean? And so that was always the intention, but the intent was that he would be relatively easy to control. And so Bloodlust and his legendary is to allow the friendly team to kind of go and make the most of that and go and hit things outside of Bor.
Yeah.
The other reason and which is also really interesting design space that I think we've talked about a little bit with Corker as well, but it's about I love making captains where the squaddies do most of the work.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's because it's very, very easy, as we saw with Bor, it was far too easy to create a super solo captain that just is the one piece that you use to just every turn you allocate the max to them and then they hit things, you know? Like, that's very easy to do from a design space perspective. But it's much harder and much more interesting to make one where they can do work themselves, or in some cases I guess Yukai is a slightly better example of a model. It doesn't do hellish much themselves, but they empower their squaddies around them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Bor's much more that now. We managed to keep that aspect of his character true to form, without kind of impacting like the cool bit. You know, we still have the cool bits in his card, but we brought his personal output down a bit.
Yeah, you've got to make some decisions, basically. You've got to apply your brain slightly to his playstyle a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And
of course.
You have to make much more decisions about when and where to send him in, because you're probably going to have to spend more resources to get him there now.
Yes. Yeah, like because you saw a lot of extending threat extension with with Boiler. So now you've got to work a little bit harder to get that same thread extension.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. Right. So, Corbelli.
Come on, Rich. You're the Mason. Talk about Corbelli.
I was a little bit down on the changes to Corbelli, although I do obviously see why. He's not a killing captain, so obviously moving the momentous damage to 3, understandable. You're going to see a lot less of Corbelli going in and dealing a lot of damage unassisted.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's obviously going to need a little bit more help to get to that. 3 successes.
That just sort of, it was something that was sort of unintended when the final version came out, and he was just sort of walking up to people and just hitting the 2 damage 6 times.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like that, like he should need to put in setup for that, you know?
Yeah. So obviously totally get that. It's just the change to his legendary. It's basically just given him Tetherball.
Yep.
As a legendary, which Salvo can do everything.
You're not happy with, are you, Rich?
I just don't get it. I think it's really.
So the key thing with Corbelli, that we wanted to preserve, because Corbelli's an example of a captain like Scalpel, actually, where because Scalpel doesn't have a legendary, but Voodoo Strings is taking up the majority of her in air commas power budget, because every model has a certain power budget, because we don't use points, obviously. So every captain, every squaddy has approximately the same power budget as other captains or squaddies. And when a captain has a lot of power budget allocated to a specific role, that means they have to lose it elsewhere. And we felt that, because making space was actually the thing that we saw most people complain about with Corbelli, and it's the thing we see most people complain about on Scalpel, and we're kind of like, that's so cool and unique and core to that model's identity that shouldn't change. So where can we take other bits out of their power budget in order to allow that rule to remain unchanged?
Yeah.
And we felt taking out the legendary play, like he can still use it to like opportunistically grab a free ball, as you say, like it's basically tether ball, but it means if he wants to get to a model that has the ball, he has to use his momentous double dodge on 2. You know, God bless him, God bless his heart. He has to use his 2-inch melee and his momentous double dodge on 2, and then his momentous tackle on 1, and then his close control and his acrobatics, and he just has to use, you know, like he's really struggling to use all of those tools that he has.
Oh no! You get me wrong. I'm not saying his ability to take the ball from a player is it was horrendous. All I'm getting at is if I was expecting him to lose that, but maybe it be like an 8-inch grab the ball from a loose ball, because do you see what I mean? Because again, like I said, it's exactly the same as tetherball, which can be done every turn. So it just feels a little bit weak sauce.
I think that's fair, and it's definitely something we actually like. You're absolutely right in that it does feel a little bit odd having a so-called legendary play that is
a character play.
A character play, yeah. But it goes back to me and Perkins actually sort of talked about it when we were designing this, and we kind of wish we could go back and rename legendary and heroic plays, because it's really, because what we actually said for playing the game was like playing the game would feel like his new legendary would feel a lot better if it was a once per game trait.
Yeah.
You know, and if it wasn't called a legendary play, because calling it a legendary play gives you that sort of set of expectations, you know?
Yeah, actually, that's really interesting.
And so, like, it's something that randomly when we were talking about Corbelli, we were like, actually, it'd be kind of cool if we could rename these just so just so we had a bit more freedom to use them for stuff like this. Because as I say, like
season 5, maybe season 5 wording.
Who knows? Like,
yeah, because me and Luke have discussed this quite a lot, and sort of you've got Fissure's legendary, you've got Squeak's legendary, which is effectively a ranged pop the ball to kick out.
Yeah. Like Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, sort of, if you gave Corbelli like if basically just renamed one of those, it would have actually felt a little bit more bang for your buck.
Yeah, and it is something we've started doing a little bit more. Is effectively just if we playtest sometimes it's like if we playtest a trait on a model and we're like, this is a bit good if they can do it every turn, but we don't want it to cost resources when they do use it.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of just started making some legendary plays that are effectively just once per game traits.
Yeah.
And you're right, like the psychological sort of disconnect between going, oh, legendary play, that's cool, that's the character's big thing, but actually on Corbelli, his big thing is making space.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
You know, and that's the thing where all of his power budget has gone, and that's why we've weakened the legendary to that extent, because I really like his toolkit, and I think he should keep it. It was just we identified the legendary as the thing that was pushing him over the edge, basically, like the old legendary.
To be honest, bearing in mind what you've just said, I think people would have been a lot more upset if making space became a legendary.
Yeah.
And he had to play the game as a trait, basically as a pop the ball for maybe a heroic. So if you had a whole round of making space, and then it was burnt, I think that would have damaged him far too much.
Yes. Yeah. We wanted to, because that's so cool and unique, and like captains, frankly, I think captains should have things. Every captain should have a rule that when you look at it, you go, that's busted. That's way too good, you know? Because that's some of the most fun captain designs we've done are ones that are entirely balanced around one very strong rule. And Corbelli's absolutely one of those captains.
Cool. Right, so should we go for a bit of positive? Let's Luke have his 10 minutes on.
My 10 minutes on Alchemist. Do I only get 10 minutes?
Not a full 10 minutes.
Bryce, I love you.
This is going to get out of hand.
The two characters who I think it was pretty clear that these were going to get touched at some point.
So hold on, before Luke goes into this, we had a poll on Gubs on who thought the weakest characters were.
I nominated Vetcat.
Luke put forward Vetcat, and I put forward Lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And Vetcat won by quite a distance. Now Luke is over the moon that Vetcat's got touched. My question is, when is Lucky going to get touched?
Well, that's an interesting way to start a section talking about alchemists.
I just want to quickly steal it just for a moment, because you might have heard on one of our.
We've got a theory about Lucky, haven't we?
I call Lucky, right, generic Guild Ball player template 1.
Yeah, like that's kind of not. It's kind of not inaccurate, because he was intended to be a very simple kind of. Well, I mean, you know, the way that we in inverted commas sold him, like we just gave him. He was given away at shows to sort of tempt people into the game, and so for that reason, he was a very simple kind of relatively generic model.
Yeah. He's the vanilla template that you just tweak the rules on to make new characters.
You start with Lucky when you make a new character, and then you go, right, I'll add a movement and take away that, then I'll add that and take away that. GB template 001, we called it.
No, and I don't think that's a particularly unfair way of looking at him. But now, I guess, again, with digital updates, there may well be something we can do with him in future, but he's not a model that we've ever kind of prioritized for Narata, because he was effectively a bonus additional model for both Brewers and Masons.
Well, I always call him a 7th player for the opponent, because he does more for them.
What do you say? The worst trait in the game.
He has the worst trait in the game. I can have a 4-inch dodge on my one character, but you can pick any of yours to have a 4-inch dodge. It's kind of like the 4-inch dodge sees the initiative. Yeah.
It's a game winning though.
The only negative is you don't lose an influence for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's the other one. But anyway, Alchemists, crack on.
You got your lucky bit out your system now.
Yeah, I did.
So Bryce, what was your thoughts around Midas?
Well, it was an errata, so
He has to get to it.
He's been. Yeah, I think I've got the biggest collection. I've got more Midas cards than any other
Yeah.
card.
As is tradition, as soon as we start an errata, Midas, obviously, like he's on there somewhere. It would be a shame to break tradition at this point, to be honest.
Leave him like this for a bit.
The next one will be toning him down a little bit.
No.
So really, it's so because Midas is intended to be the more football-y, strikery alchemist captain that they play into teams where the opposing team's damage output is too high for Smoke to damage them. Like basically, they're gonna win the damage fight that Smoke's trying to bring. So they're like against like farmers, for instance, and butchers probably. And so Midas is intended to be that's your matchup for those. That's your drop for those games.
Yeah.
But he just wasn't good enough at it before. Is kind of the long and short of it. So that's kind of what we did. We just made him a little bit better at his intended role.
Like Where'd They Go is brilliant. Because season 2, if I was against say Masons or Fish, I would be I true ret Where'd They Go every time. And obviously that's the second favourite deciding blow naturally when he used to be able to true ret. But yeah, and adding Fulmination onto his legendary is just amazing.
Yeah.
It was when I was talking to Rich about you've got the obscene thing of Vetcat punching someone 3 times and dodging with each attack.
Yeah.
Or Vetcat having like a momentous push dodge on one.
Yeah. Which is just like phenomenal. Like it opens up a lot of options for the Alchemist team but the positioning on it's still a little bit awkward because you wanna get as many enemy models with the burning and poison as you can.
Yeah.
And you want to get as many friendly models with fulmination as you can.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's now adds that kind of interesting push-pull to it as well, where you kind of want to be in the middle of both teams when you do it.
Yeah. So you kind of don't want to just make sure you cap all 6 opponents. Yeah, you might not get all of them. You might get 2 or 3.
Yeah. But generally speaking, in like the footballing, like this footballing version, whenever I play it, so if I'm getting the conditions out, it's mainly to be pulling them for Vitriol to free charge, for Crucible to get the pull off character play, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And now you kind of have to think about it a little bit and like where because you don't. It used to be he just got as deep as he could, then sort of legendary, then did his thing.
Legendary, then shoot.
And now you actually need to think about it a little bit more. But yeah, like the options that opens up are pretty spectacular. Just again pushing that kind of footballing aspect. But also even like Vetcat now, who I imagine we're going to talk about in a second.
Oh yeah.
Can dodge in and hit more models with his burst of fumes what's it called? Yeah, burst of fumes. Yeah. Yeah,
burst of fumes. Yeah. But yeah, and also the playbook changes. That momentous tackle on one's amazing because I found when you're going in with Midas, sometimes you had to put a lot of resources in, and there was quite a lot of places where your activation could go wrong, and it sometimes is with generating the momentum.
Yeah.
The momentous tackle is brilliant, and then also the double push, double dodge on the final column.
Yeah, that's kind of a slightly smaller change, but it's just it just makes it look better, frankly.
Oh, it's huge. The triple dodge, double push. That is
it's pretty good.
That is the result.
It's pretty good if you hit. Yeah, it's pretty good if you hit that. If you get column 6 now, and obviously, Midas is more a model that's more interested in his first 3 columns, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you ever like charge and get that result off, you feel like the king of Guild Ball, right?
Oh, it is. It's God mode. Then you buy your Where'd They Go afterwards, and 7 inches of dodge is legit.
Yeah, pretty good.
Still there, Rich?
Yeah.
So Vetcat.
Well, we're going to talk about Masons in a minute, so like...
Yeah, Rich.
You'll get your chance. Like...
don't forget to talk, Rich. You get to talk about Blacksmith soon, another one of your guilds. So my favourite thing on Vetcat is knockdowns accessible now.
Yes. Like, he just it makes his life considerably. I think the changes to Vet Cat have just made his life considerably easier. Really, I think it's fair to say.
I think the problem is that for me, I like to use if his biggest issue for me was his name was Catalyst. If you could have OCAT and VetCat in the same team, then that would be fine because OCAT can do the easy setup with the knockdowns, the repositions, and pushing, and then he can come in as like a finishing piece.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest issue for me was they were both called Catalyst, so you couldn't take them both. Boo hoo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's made him so much more easier to play with, and also with the burst of fumes getting a damage buff as well, because it went from 1 condition damage to 2.
Yes, and also his momentum generation is much easier.
Yeah.
And as you say, his knockdown is more accessible. His double push is now no longer momentous, but it's also much more accessible.
And having a push on 1 is nice as well.
Yeah.
It's just those little quality of life changes that makes him an option, because whenever I've been playing, my tournament 12's easy. You just drop Vet Cat and you take the rest of the Alks.
Yeah.
That was generally my 12. But now I've got a decision to make, and then I imagine when Cammy comes out and the new captain, I've got more decisions to make, which is always good.
Yeah. Really, there should be... Ideally, we'd like every guild to be having to make some really tough decisions when looking at their 12.
Yeah.
And I think we've managed to make both Midas and Catalyst considerably better, and now I think you have to really consider whether or not you bring Vet Cat, because he's that big beastly damage dealer that he feels he really should be.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's the obscene amount of damage with that its potential if you can get the last and first activation with Vet Cat of walking into a group of players, hard casting ground pound at the end of the turn and knocking everyone down around him, then giving them out the condition damage, and then the first activation next turn of punching a knockdown person 3 times, and all the splash damage to everyone else is like magic Christmas Slam, but it could be amazing.
Yeah. But he still has the biggest weakness that he always had, which is the Def 2 Arm 1.
Yes.
I agree, but at the end of the day, with toxicity, it makes hitting him not exactly a great option.
Yeah, it's certainly because one of his biggest problems was getting knocked down and then just farmed for momentum.
Yeah.
And it means that's still an option, but it's not it just punishes the opponent a little bit for just sitting and trying to farm him, you know.
And I suppose with the toxicity, it works quite nicely by, you end your activation. Okay, you've got the poison condition now. Oh, look, Venom gets a pseudo singled out for someone who's poisoned.
Yeah. There's now a lot more, because one thing we felt that there was some more combos with burning and stuff than there is for poison, and now and that's partially why like Vet Cat is just easy. Original Cat was just easier because he puts out so much burning on people, and now this version of Catalyst is, as you say, like he combos much better with the poison leaning models of the guild. Yeah,
it's certainly wants me to, I think he's probably a lot more at home in a smoke team.
Yes.
And OCAT with Midas all the time just for clearing paths and moving things, knocking people down to bounce off and stuff like that. But couldn't be happier.
Good. Well, glad to hear it.
Rich, who do you want to talk about now?
I think we should stick with positivity.
Oh, do you want me to talk about Scourge?
No. Oh, just a quick one. Did Scourge really need that?
Yeah.
It just seems like a random, just here you go, have some free passes.
So basically it's because the Rats are intended to be a football team, right? And Scourge as the purest fighting model in that guild, because like Miasma brings support as well, and Scourge often actually wasn't getting played all that much because he has like overall like he doesn't really interact with football all that much, and now he now he does much better, I think. And he's much more engaging to play, and he has a purpose in Rats that isn't just pure fighting things, because now he also brings some influence efficiency.
Yeah. And it
And
also extends his threat range.
It also extends the threat range. Also worth pointing out that Rats have currently the second lowest win rate of any guild. So
Really?
yeah,
That's
so
surprising after the last errata.
Rats are definitely one of those guilds that I talked about earlier, like blacksmiths, that they are just. We know there are some guilds in the game that are going to have a lower win rate than others because they are a more difficult guild to play, because they are janky, or what they do is less direct than some other guilds, and Rats are one of them. And so that was just. This is kind of like. It's a little bit like the change to Ebb in terms of it's not a huge change, but it's just a little sort of quality of life thing that helps hopefully push that guild's win rate up a little bit.
Because
Okay.
I absolutely look. I think Rats are an amazing team because I put in quite a lot of reps with them when they first came out and took them to Vengeance and went 5-2 with them. So I was really really happy with them, and they've just got better and better. And they've got rid of the 4 VP takeout, which I think was needed 100%. But they've just got better and better and better. And they what sold me on them initially was they were essentially like a footballing Morts.
Yes.
Which was like all the jank of Morts, but like more football focused. But I found myself getting dragged into like the 1 goal 2 takeout thing because it was easier to achieve to win a game.
Yeah.
But then season 4, I've loved them. Piper was just phenomenal. I would say he's one of the best captains in the game once you've got your head around him.
I think that's fair. Like Piper is probably maybe up there with Obulus in terms of when it's Piper's activation. I just sort of tap clock and I'm like, I have no idea what the board state is going to be at the end of this activation.
Yeah.
Like anything could happen here.
Yeah. I really enjoy my Piper activations because he's got such a deep toolbox that he can do pretty much anything within the constraints of the game. But yeah, he can do pretty much anything. You don't really know what to expect when you're playing against Rats with Piper.
Yeah. He is possibly like you say, like with up there with Obulus in terms of he has the most options.
Yeah.
In terms of how his activation can go down in a vast array of different ways, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Really happy with it. Yeah, because my 2 main teams I play are Rats and Alchemist, so I'm over the moon at the moment. Keep on the positivity, Rich.
Yeah, let's keep smiling. So, okay. So just as the quickest one, Marbles picked up countercharge because Brick lost it.
Yep.
So Luke put forward a very interesting point earlier today.
Amazing.
No, that's different. In the last event, you procced countercharge on Brick when you were playing Eastern.
Yep.
Is this because you'd put so many reps in with new Brick and forgot that he had it?
I would love to be able to say
that
that was true.
Yes.
I'd love to put that down to dev brain, as we call it, but frankly, I'm just an idiot.
Because initially I laughed saying, Bryce procs countercharge, now Brick's lost it.
Yeah. No, like that was just an idiotic move, quite frankly. Like I kind of got tilted pretty hard in that game because I had a win on the table and my dice sort of abandoned me for that turn, and it kind of tilted me because then I ended up down on clock and not in a winning position and having to keep the ball away from Corbelli, and also not give up any takeouts to Corbelli, and that is a big ask at that
a lot
point.
Of plates to keep spinning.
Yeah, exactly. And the plate I forgot was countercharge. Like.
So it's a straightforward buff to Marbles for him just to keep countercharge. We weren't sure if it was the rule that was getting taken out if Brick had lost it.
Beg pardon?
We weren't sure if countercharge was one of those rules where it was going to end up leaving the game because obviously there's now only 3 characters with it.
Yeah, it's definitely a rule that we are toning down.
Because
More and
lost in the
more.
last errata.
Yes, yeah. It's definitely a rule that we're toning down more and more. Like if you look at, like Tater kept it going into season 4, but his playbook was changed so that it's generally much less impactful
Yeah.
when he does get it. And as you say, like we've removed it from Brick. It's a rule we're kind of phasing out because it's so punishing if you forget it. And
Yeah.
it's a gotcha, and we try not to put gotchas in the game. And so yeah, generally speaking, countercharge is one of those things we are trying to tone down, and like the models that still have it, like Tater, Marbles, and Compound, um, it's much more restrictive because Marbles obviously like he's a mascot, so he's only TAC 3. Tater's playbook isn't a great for counter charges, and Compound is tied to the goal if he wants to have it. So there's a way more elements for your opponent to play around, and generally speaking, it's something we're trying to phase out of the game. But one of the other things we're trying to do in this errata, particularly in Masons, is reduce some of the Masons' lack of choice in roster building, because a lot of the time it's like, you bring Honor, so you're like, well, now we want to bring Marbles. If I bring Marbles, I kind of need to bring Bricks, and if I'm bringing Brick and Honor, I kind of want Harmony. And so it was an attempt to just bring those ties down a little bit and make list construction a bit easier for Masons.
Okay. Well, I totally understand that, but I don't think there'll ever be a point where you won't take Harmony with Honor. I literally think sort of Linked is too powerful of a tool not to have.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. Yeah, that is just part of the
character design.
Part of the character design, yeah. Like that's something that is kind of so baked into the game. Like Linked and family between Harmony and Honor is one of the things that's so baked into the game that I don't. It's not something we can really change. And so I think you're right in terms of Honor will almost Honor certainly will almost always bring Harmony, or rather Harmony will almost go with Honor. But I think following this errata, there's at least an option to not do that. There's at least an option to bring Harmony with other captains because she doesn't rely on family quite so much.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the next thing I was going to move in, because obviously she's. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think she's the only model in the errata that's actually had like a proper stat change. So obviously she's gone from TAC 3 to TAC 5, and she's had her kick upped. Yeah. I don't think any of the characters had like a stat change, which I think it's really strong for Harmony, because I think she was really lacking without it. Like if you hadn't activated her counterattack was terrible and all that sort of stuff. Don't get me wrong, it's okay now. It's obviously she's now got momentous damage. She's got weak point on 2 rather than 3. So yeah.
So the key thing with Harmony was that beforehand, it felt like if you didn't have family, you were being punished, whereas now it feels like family is actually a benefit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of like before it got changed. The rule that Harry used to have, crazy. Yeah. It was the same with crazy. Like you felt you were being punished for not having activated the character. Now their stats are better, so it's just nice to have at the end of the day. So I really like the changes to Harmony. Honor, I think is just so powerful now. In light of Corbelli being changed, I think Honor's really going to see the table a lot more.
I would definitely hope so. Because Masons have that, like, their 3 captains are like the 3 archetypes of, like, Hammer's the fighty boy, Corbelli's the footbally boy, and Honor is the pure middle of the road. Should ideally be shouldn't be as good at fighting as Hammer or as good at football as Corbelli, but should be able to transition into either of those as needed.
Yes,
And
exactly. Which is what the Masons have always been. They've
yes,
always been that we can sort of go however the game's going. If I need
yes,
some more takeouts, I've got you. If I need more goals, I've got you.
yeah. And
Because
Honor was always the sort of quintessential point of that, where
Yeah.
she could enable her team to do either of those depending on whatever was needed at the time.
yes,
And I think previously she just hadn't had a significant update since season 1, basically, and a number of the things on her card, superior strategy being the big one, just felt a bit dated in season 4. And so
it's
this
quite
was
expensive for what you got.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
now it's very, no offense, it's super cheap and super exciting.
Yeah, it's really very good.
Don't get me wrong, obviously you're not being reallocated that 1 influence, but it's saving you 2 on top. So net,
Yeah.
you're winning.
Like, it means you lose the kind of ability to have, say, activated Flint and pass him the ball, superior strategy him, and then suddenly he's got an influence and he can go and shoot or something like that.
Yeah.
You do lose that, but you also, it's the fact it's 2 influence cheaper at the point of use. So Honor still has 4 influence. If she uses superior strategy, she still has 4 influence left.
And you've still got your legendary if you need that 1 influence and you're desperate.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, it just makes her life and really the whole Mason player's life easier and simpler to use. Because there was times previously where like you start your influence allocation. Because I've played a fair bit of Honor myself, and there's times where you start your influence allocation and you're like, oh boy, okay, right, hold on. I need to put 3 here because I might want a superior strategy her, but then I also need to put 3 here because I might want a superior strategy them. But then if I legendary, then I'm not gonna gain any benefit from superior strategy now. So, and you know what I mean, you could end up going like and spending like 3 or 4 minutes just on your allocation because of how important it was for how that team worked, and making that easier in any way, I think, is just a lot better for Honor.
Yeah, exactly. So the other one now, it's a different feeling altogether. The fact that Brick has now completely changed his role that he's had from season 1. He now has a completely different sort of like place in the team. He used to be just that counter charge threat, that battery of 2 influence. I'm just going to sit here and just do me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now he's very much more of a go-getter.
He's someone I think it was on the media group described him as an enforcer model, and I think that's quite accurate. Like, but he's very tough now.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like he. While I'm super excited to try him, and he now has so many different tools, like you're always going to be engaging because of Gravity Well, and like Fulcrum really supports his team. I think he sits in the same design space as Granite.
I think like, there's
a lot.
There are definitely points of difference. There is definitely some overlap, but there's also definitely some points of difference in terms of he has much more access to pushes. He has a much better counterattack, for instance, than Granite.
Yes, he does.
The fact that he has armor 3 and tough hide means that he is so much tankier than Granite. And so, like, obviously he doesn't have sturdy, but Tower can give him sturdy and stuff like that. He can now be that kind of leading model that can just be like, I'm gonna put him up there and he's not gonna die. Like, he's gonna be able to take some hits here.
Yeah.
Because he's just with armor 3 and tough hide and 19 boxes. He is a big tough boy now.
Yeah.
He is.
He's much more personally tougher than Granite.
Yeah, he is. Definitely.
Yeah.
So I think he still brings a lot to the team, and I definitely think you'll see him a lot more now.
I think Fulcrum's genius. Fulcrum's such a good ability, especially with his 40 mil base, a 6-inch orb.
I was going to say at 6 inches and 40 base, it's really good.
Yeah. So you can, and he can also like even in space of 1 turn, spending that 1 influence for Fulcrum could save you, like, even conservatively, that could be 2 or 3 momentum effectively.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's better for all those times where you're kind of like, oh, do I really want to you know those times where like someone flips the clock onto you and you're like, oh, do I really want to counterattack? Like, do I is this worth it? And now you're just like, yeah, poised. Just tap it
But I
back,
think
you know?
even with that, with the combination, with the Mason having high armor and low death, I think for the one momentum, essentially having a death stance counter attack is a thing.
Yeah,
Because
for
Brick
sure.
being a 3/3 is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To be
that's
honest,
pretty.
like,
Huh?
I even think, like, even as a ball carrier,
Mm.
sit him in cover. And especially with gravity well,
Yeah.
he's such a good ball carrier because you're kind of like, okay, I'm 2-3. Yeah, I'm 3-3 on the defensive. You're
Yep.
-1 twice. Come at me.
And you're in base to base, and if he counterattacks, he's got that knockdown on 1, so the ball's gonna get scattered. Like,
Yep.
yeah,
Exactly.
I think he's just a phenomenal defensive piece now, and a piece that can really take a hit and really just be. And also, like, he effectively has a triple push on 2 hits.
Yeah.
Yes, that's something special. That is.
Yeah.
And to be fair, if you've taken marbles, even if someone goes into with gravity well, they will end their move.
Yeah.
Next to for marbles to charge.
No, it's a push, isn't it? No, it's a
Oh,
push.
is it? Does it?
Yeah, gravity
well's
well's a push.
Yeah,
You
gravity
can't
well's a
hold
push,
people
yeah.
into counter charge, Rich.
That would be amazing. That would be maybe too much.
Yeah, that would be a bit brutal if that's how that works.
But anyway. So overall, I'm really happy with the Masons. I think Flint getting that tackle dodge is it's really nice as well. Just a bit of extra on top. Because I was saying to Luke that it kind of feels like he's being kept in line with the other strikers. So sort of like a tackle dodge seems to be quite a staple of strikers nowadays. Obviously, Egret's picked it up and things like that. So it kind of just keeps him relevant.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Just like he was just feeling a little bit dated, I think, and it's just a little bit of a spruce up, a wee bit of a kind of fresh lick of paint to keep him relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
cool. Okay, so where do we want to go with next? I think the other one that I think people are going to talk about, I think the main 3 are going to be the changes to Union, the changes to Cooks, and obviously Smiths.
Masons as well, I think, but we've covered them.
Yeah. We're good.
Do you mind if we just pause for a wee second? Because
Okay, part 2 after the bathroom break.
Yeah. Okay, so I know it's going to be one of the hottest topics that people talk about, but overall, I think the changes will be quite quick to talk over. So blacksmiths. So obviously, Sledge has lost his 2-inch.
Yep.
Anvil has lost 1 health and had a slight change to his legendary, and obviously Faris has had the change to her legendary as well.
Yes.
So these 3 particular players being singled out because I presume they're the highest 3 picked players. Anvil and Faris have really high win rates.
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Carry on.
Yeah, I was just going to say this is I kind of mentioned it earlier, but it's that weird thing where blacksmiths are a bit like rats in terms of we know that their overall win percentage is never going to be like too exceptionally high because they are tricky to get the most out of kind of mid and lower tier levels of play, and it kind of brings up a really interesting point in development because do you balance for the absolute top level of competitive play, or do you balance for the mid tiers of play? And in that point, they're almost a counterpoint to Vetbor, for instance, who had a very, very high win record at kind of mid and lower tier play, but at upper levels, at the sort of the top tier play, if you will.
Yeah.
A lot of those players kind of knew how to counter and knew how to work around Vetbor.
Yeah.
And so in that instance, we definitely brought him down to make him. I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't still too strong there, but definitely it wasn't as bad a problem at the top levels of play.
Yeah.
Whereas the blacksmiths are or were a real problem at the absolute top end of the game. And the hope is with these changes that they're just not as punishing in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing with them, but they shouldn't be equally. They shouldn't be too punishing for kind of, let's say, mid-level players that are still they still want to play with blacksmiths and still should be able to play and do reasonably well with blacksmiths. We didn't want to impact that too much, so blacksmiths were one of the odder choices to include in the errata, but when you have, like, as I say, when you have 2 or 3 players that are kind of undefeated in Season 4, you kind of have to be like, okay, there is an issue here.
Not that I feel this, but just to throw it out there, I know a lot of the tactics around erratas has been to sort of lower play rates of some players and boost play rates of others. Was there any discussion of making the players that you never see, giving them a little buff? Like, as far as I'm aware, you never see Cast. Since he got changed, you don't see. I can't even remember. Alloy. Do you know what I mean? Like, those players never see the field, so would giving those a little bit of a touch up, would that be on the cards later on, or do you foresee just dropping Sledge a little bit will make him slightly less picked?
So that was something that we discussed, but we kind of ran into, at the end of the day, blacksmiths at the top levels of play are probably the best guild in the game.
Yeah.
And we wanted to bring them down in this errata with those tools that they had that were letting them play at the top levels. We discussed adding, like, a couple of the kind of lesser seen blacksmith models, but frankly, this errata is already enormous.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a priority. But
no, that's cool.
It certainly is something that we're not blind to, and we may well take a look at in the near future.
So,
that's cool.
Interestingly, in terms of Sledge, I thought it was really, really interesting the way that you changed him to a 1-inch melee, because I didn't even think that as an option. Because when we were, we've discussed at length, haven't we, Rich, about how Sledge is probably a problem piece at times for, you know, the ability. I've had it before. I think I had Piper in cover. The ability to do essentially 8 auto damage without rolling the dice. I had it someone in a tournament. They had 3 influence on him in tutelage. They went, okay, I'm going to take the Momentous 4, buy a pile drive, another Momentous 4, you're dead, I'll win the game, kind of thing. He didn't even pick his dice up.
Yeah.
And I was like, at least now, with the 1-inch melee, there's some interactivity.
Yes,
which I thought's a really good. I didn't know whether you were going to reduce the range of tutelage or whatever, or look at pile drive being once per turn, or maybe look at moving the Momentous 4 up a column so the pile driver is an auto hit. But I like the 1-inch melee change.
Yeah. So the key things that we sort of talking about how earlier with Corbelli, I was talking about how, like, models have a power budget. Sledge's power budget is his damage is exceptional. And so even though we had kind of the biggest thing I think people complain about with Sledge is that his damage is very high. And that is entirely reasonable, but it's also the core identity of the model.
Yeah.
Is he's intended to be one of the highest, like, if you get all of the usual buffs on him, he's one of the highest damage dealers in the entire game. You know? So we really wanted to preserve that. And we talked about a few other ways that we could bring him down. The other thing we wanted to preserve, actually, was his very unique playbook construction, because it's unique playbooks are really interesting to us from a design point of view, and we always try and preserve them where possible.
Yeah.
And his playbook construction is utterly unique. Like, he's TAC 5 with a 7-long playbook with, like, 2, 4, 6, 8 going up on the alternate columns. And that's just, that's really sweet. But where we felt we could bring him down was to make applying that damage more difficult.
Yeah.
And to, as you say, introduce counterplay of, like, he can't just walk into any model and be like, I'm going to do 8 damage, because if that model's not knocked down already, he now has to consider, like, oh, well, do I charge and try and get the power, like, try and knock them down on charge, but then I can't just do the auto 8 damage because, you know, they can defensive stance, and then I might only roll, like, the 2 on the second attack type thing. And it just introduces more points of interactivity for your opponent, and makes it a little bit more difficult for the blacksmith player to apply his his admittedly still incredibly good damage output.
But I just think that that's quite a nice change. But I didn't think of that as a change, and obviously that's why I'm not a developer.
Yeah, I think he's going to take a lot more. He's not exactly point and click as he used to be. It's going to take a lot more like canny placement to make up for that less of a 1 inch.
Yeah, I think the kind of intent is that you have models like Veteran Cinder that are the models that you actually throw out to hit people with, whereas Sledge is now much more of a counterpunch model.
Yeah.
And I
makes sense.
think they're now slightly more clearly defined in those roles.
Yeah.
The Faris thing's fine with the legendary of losing the additional distance on the kick, because then Faris hasn't got that obscene goal threat.
Yeah, because a lot of the time Faris could just, if I had a game where I on turn 1 I received and he played Faris and I missed the kick on turn 1 and Faris had like 1 influence and just scored a goal. Like, because I missed the kick and it scattered off, and I was like, oh well, but he'll have to put someone up to get it. And Faris just came in and just scored a goal with
Legendary
1 influence.
Goal. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
That's a thing.
Sprint, grab the ball, drop the ball, legendary goal, and I was like, okay, cool. That's really very good.
That's going in my little errata notepad.
Do you have like a little notepad?
Do you carry your notepad?
Oh, okay. I see. This needs to change.
Me and Perkins always joke about at WTC taking a big bit of paper that says errata September, whatever the date is, and then just write whenever we're playing a game, be like, I see. Minors, is
just
it?
Write something down as soon as I get
Just write something random down.
And just like between rounds, ferry the sheet of paper to Gibble and be like, "Go on, put it up." But no, it wasn't. It wasn't actually so much personally from that. It was actually Fraser's suggestion, that one, because he's obviously I've been talking about. He's just started working for us, and he's also one of the top players in the world, and has won like 2 nationals with Blacksmiths now.
He's Mr. Blacksmith, really.
Yeah,
is a fair name for him.
Yeah, he's Captain Blacksmith. Like he is the correct Blacksmith captain choice.
Yes.
And that one was actually his suggestion. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. That's cool. Well, we'll watch this space to see if any of them get a little bit of a change. But other than that, it's okay. I think it wasn't as heavy-handed as I was expecting.
No, we're always very cautious, and I think maybe when these first go public and people sort of see the changes for the first time, I think we might get a bit of an accusation on Vetbor of not being harsh enough. Because so we really don't want to kill these models, We want them to still be good, viable choices, but just slightly less powerful.
See, this is another thing that we talk about quite on a regular basis. There's quite a few players that we see as being very strong, but a slight change would make
them rubbish.
A slight tweak would make them never see them.
Yeah. And those are actually the hardest. Like, those are actually the hardest models to look at, where you're kind of like, none of this feels wrong, but the model is just a bit too good.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Yeah, sometimes just putting your finger on that is so difficult.
Like, don't get me wrong, like some players, Mallet for example, are winners right out from season 1. They're right on the line of where you need them to be. You'll see them in most lineups. They're in pretty much everyone's 12. It's fantastic. Yeah. I feel, not as a criticism, but I feel with Vetcat is one of the players where if you tweak him a little bit too much, he goes well over. Tweak him a little bit, he goes well under. There's a very fine line of getting him just right, and I think time will tell where the latest change sits with him.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of players in the game where, again, tweak them a little bit, you'll see them all the time, and then take it a little bit down, and it puts them well below the curve. I totally empathise with how difficult your job is when it comes to sort of balancing everyone.
Yeah, especially because a lot of the time, and a lot of the time we make changes, it is just, sometimes you just have to go on gut feel. like at the end of the day, me and Perkins will sit and talk about it, and like we'll talk about it with other people on the dev team and with playtesters. But at the end of the day, sometimes you just have to sit there and be like, I think we need to do this.
Yeah.
Or I think we need to change this. And most of the time, I'd say we get those calls right. Some of them you get them wrong because, we're not gods. Like, we're only human, alas.
Oh no, shame.
Okay, so...
Can we talk about farmers with Grange?
Yeah.
It's one of your toys, Bryce.
Yep.
So, wow, Grange.
He's a thing now, isn't he?
He's a thing.
Yeah, it's largely because we still hadn't. So when we going into season 4, we made the big change to farmer playbook construction, where we basically took Tooled Up out of the guild and gave them all 2 damage on 1 and restricted planter access to momentous damage much more harshly. We at the time didn't get it quite right. As I think, and the big point where we didn't get it quite right was Grange, because as the planter captain, it's very hard to kind of get his support abilities right compared to his output abilities, and just get all of those moving pieces in place. And we tried to get it right with the last errata, and I think we finally sort of managed it with this one, where he's now very, very strong. And the key thing is with that 5 influence, he can bring comfortably 2 Reapers, maybe even 3. And that's where a planter captain should be, we think, in that team, because they're going to be those Reapers are the ones that are going to be doing the majority of the work.
Yeah. He could, with him being able to put 2 out of thing, 5 influence. As I was just thinking about the legit goal scoring team now with Greg, because we discussed it last time with Amber, with just his aura and help him out being an aura as well. So just to clarify, this is how I read it. He's got help him out as an aura. Bushel stood in there with a ball, and then someone goes in to get Bushel. You've got Grange and another player crowding them out. Are they -4 dice?
No, it's only -3 because
okay.
help him out doesn't stack with itself.
Right, okay.
You basically get -1 from each additional model, and then -1 if any of those models have help him out.
Right, okay.
So it's not quite as busted as
like,
it
oh my
looks.
god, because I was like, -4, because I was like, okay, so when this model calls an enemy model, the enemy model suffers additional -1 dice pool, so I thought because it was an active one on those ones, but then abilities don't stack.
Yeah, basically it would be extremely very good.
Yeah, because Death 5, we're close to control and sturdy as well during the legendary turn. You're like, oh my god.
But now I think he's very strong in that scrum where farmers, where Grange particularly should be strong. But the key thing with that, I think people are going to look at that 4-inch aura on Constitution and they're going to panic a little bit. But bear in mind, farmers have bad defensive stats, so if you have pushes anywhere, like
you can reposition anyone.
Yeah,
See, I think it's that trade-off though, because farmers have a lot of health. So if you're wasting attacks pushing them out of the tough hide aura, you might as well just spend your time beating on them a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it really adds that sort of, for lack of a better word, that dilemma.
Yes, and it really just he should be. Grange's sort of ideal role is right in the middle of the pitch, where he should be sort of controlling the scrum, and if his team has the ball, then he should be where they can walk and be within range of his kick buff aura, and then they can shoot from wherever they're now standing, So usually that means 10 inches away, because you can run Amber, Jackstraw,
Bushel,
Bushel, and Buckwheat. Yeah, you can run and himself. You can run 4 models that have a 10-inch kick if they're near him, which is pretty spectacular.
Yes,
3 gold farmers
on the halfway line, firing goals in.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So my biggest question, Bryce, is Grange going to see your field when you're playing the tournament?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I've actually been I think I can't remember if I talked about it last time I was on, that I've been playing Grange recently, like in casual games and stuff, and I think now, not so much if you have to kick, because I think if you kick, you still want to play Thresher.
Yeah.
But I think if you receive, you can build a super strong Grange lineup now.
Yeah. Is it around that football focus with the Amber, Jack Straw?
For me, it's more. I think Amber's strong in any lineup, basically, because she's that kind of down the middle, like she's never bad.
Yeah.
I think Amber's pretty good, but I would go probably more fighty with him.
Yeah.
Because I think he scrums so well now.
Mm.
Cool.
And it's just I've been on the receiving. His legendary turn is just phenomenal. When that goes right, when it was season 3 when someone puts out all the puts out Constitution multiple times. And then goes
honest. It used to be honest labour as well.
Honest labour, yeah, as well. Gets all that out and goes, okay, yeah, your move. You come in here. Good luck, young man.
Yeah.
So, I think we'd get some discerning looks from Mustin if we didn't touch upon Union.
Oh yeah.
So,
I love that the single largest guild in this errata, and we're kind of getting to the end, and we're like, I guess we probably should talk about them, I suppose.
It's a better touch to the whole rework of Union.
Yeah.
So, we mentioned it on the not that we're claiming credit for it, but we mentioned in the last discussion that Vetbor made Vet Rage look a little bit weak.
Mm-hmm.
So Rage is obviously now he brings an extra influence. He's had some playbook reworks. Obviously, he's benefited from the overall buff to QuickTime.
Yep, absolutely.
So he's looking a lot stronger.
Yeah. Because he used to be like one of the terrors of the game, and the game had kind of moved past him a bit. I think is fair to say.
Yeah.
And so we just sort of gave him, like with a lot of models in this errata, it was kind of just a sort of tidying up, like a bit of quality of life changes, you know.
Yeah, bring him up to season 4 level, because most of the unions stayed the same from season 3 to 4, didn't they? There was only like minimal change, like Snakeskin had a few changes. I think Avarice and Greed had their typical changes that they have similar levels to Midas with changes.
Yeah. They really didn't see many changes whatsoever, and so that actually meant a lot of the Union models hadn't seen a significant sort of change since season 1, and we just wanted to basically bring them up a little bit, and just let them compete in a season 4 world and let them be scary again, because Union should be scary.
Yeah, exactly.
So what we should mention is the global change is that this is coming out at the same time, is that no guilds can access Union anymore.
Yeah.
So they are their own entity now.
Yes,
so
which is something we've been building towards for ages, because it makes balancing Union a hell of a lot easier, quite frankly.
God, yeah. Oh, it must have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
Are we going to see minor guilds come out a bit faster then, now that a few teams now don't have access to additional models?
I believe I don't know if I can say anything on that.
Yeah. No, that's cool. No.
Sorry,
that's
yeah.
fine.
Like I was about to say something. I'm like, nah, probably best not on that one. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
That would have got us an extra listeners.
No, it's fine. But yeah, it's only a few guilds that have no things. Most of the guilds will have, within the next couple of months, most will have the rookies out. It's, the guilds are big enough to not need the Union players, really, I don't think. There's many guilds that
I don't think many
rely
guilds
on Union
anymore, do they?
Yeah, I mean, currently the only guilds that can take Union are Brewers, Masons, and Alchemists. So yeah, there's only 3 that actually affects, and we kept running into issues where we were trying out these new Union models, and they were working fine in Union, and then some interaction would come up with another guild, and we were like,
You just got to pull the plaster off at times and just go, no, that's it. They're
And
done.
that's kind of it. That was basically what we came down to. Was we were like, look, it's affecting few enough guilds now. We're just going to call it here.
Which is fair.
Especially because all three of those guilds are seeing buffs in this errata elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've on season 4. I never used any union in outs because I was preparing for not having them. So normally I'd have decimate or mist, but then I lost mist to the
Yeah,
order, and then decimate. I was like, decimate's an amazing toolkit, but I had to kind of get used to not having decimate, so I just made a conscious thing of not playing decimate.
yeah, and I think a lot of people have actually done that in season 4 anyway.
Yeah,
Like even people who could use union seem to have started to make a choice just not to because they know that union are going to be going at some point anyway, and they don't want to like yourself, like they don't want to get used to using it and then have it taken away.
yeah. I'd rather be given new toys than have toys taken away.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that is a pretty healthy way of looking at it, and I think that's how, for my money, the majority of people were playing it anyway.
Yeah, there's a couple of other Alchemist players who I speak to, and they do similar. They're like, there's not really much point using them because, generally speaking, my choices would have been. No, it was Harry I used to play quite a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but then
I
Harry,
haven't had him for a while.
I haven't had him for a while. Yeah, but it's fine. I'm more than happy.
Okay.
Like I said, I've got buffs.
Yep. So,
Yes.
Strongbox has been shelling out is now even better.
Yes. So yeah, I love Perkins' description of it as reversing the polarity.
Yeah.
So
I like
that it now affects friendly models within the aura instead of enemy models, which is obviously like a massive buff because it, like, say you're dealing with a friendly model with a 2-inch reach, a 2-inch melee, sorry, that's effectively adding 3 inches to the range because you add base size and then the melee zone.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like that is a pretty huge buff. Like,
It's huge because I had a game with I played Vet Rage a couple of weeks ago, and that was a pain. It was against who was it? It was it in Pelage.
Me.
That was it. No, I was meant who was it in?
Oh.
So I was it in Pelage with Rage. Who was it? I think it was with Rage, and I was like, right, I need to get in the shelling out so I get some momentum off this.
yeah,
So I got the double momentum at the end of the activation. It was like damage and a push, damage and a push. Okay, you need shelling out, and there we go, 2 momentum.
Yeah. Yeah, Rage's new heroics really strong, especially
Rage.
seen as Black's Union teams are never short of momentum.
Yep. And that is, it's part of the reason we didn't do Blackheart in this one is because that original Rage buff is basically a Blackheart buff.
Yes.
So we can, and also like because the whole like most of the Union models have seen some tweak upwards. So Blackheart is now all of his support staff have gotten better.
Yeah. Yeah, Blackheart. I just like the idea of even Rage being able to heroic and tool himself up.
Yeah.
And just go nuts.
And go ham.
Yeah.
Like.
And to be fair, Union were never really criticised as having bad support staff.
No.
Yeah. And I think that like Rage was one that is also just very much like he hasn't changed apart from losing Maverick since season 1. Like his card is identical to his season 1 card apart from Maverick's come off. So the heroic was also an attempt to kind of make up for it because very few models in the game now only bring 1 influence outside of like blacksmiths and farmers who have their own kind of team construction elements.
Have reasons.
Yeah, they have reasons for that, and now very few models actually bring 1 influence, and the heroic helps make up for that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Decimates
Minx.
just that. Oh, you're doing Minx first.
I was going to say, Minx is the only one that I can see as sort of like a semi-nerf. Losing Furious is quite a big thing.
So, losing Furious is obviously big for her, but one thing that was kind of consistent feedback from Union players was that if they had to kick, they didn't have a particularly good kicking model. And weirdly, Minx losing Furious and going up to 2/4 influence, it means she has much more choices with what to do with that influence. And so that means she's actually now, because she's already very fast, she's potentially much better as a kicking model, or now mark target's much easier to trigger, and she can now like walk up, do mark target, throw out axe throw, do 3 damage snare, and then get back to the shadows off of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, one damage, mark target, snare, ain't bad for one success.
It's not bad at all, is it?
It's all right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, good point.
So I wouldn't say so much it's a nerf so much as redefining her role.
Yeah, much like Brick.
I think I like the idea of having ranged damage within the guild, and then also putting out snare from range.
Yeah,
So if 3 influence from range, you can chuck an axe at them and then mark target them as well, which would set up rage with his furious charge, which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Snared brings its own buffs anyway. Do you know what I mean? To obviously, if you're targeting a striker, reduce their speed, etc., etc. So it does give her a lot more flexibility.
But then also she's gained a bit of life, hasn't she? She used to be 12.
Yeah, 2 health. 12 used to be super easy to kill.
Yeah. Just getting those like kind of 2 extra health just really makes her more flexible and just more able to just be a bit safer, really, because she used to rely on Back to the Shadows to be safe, but you can still get there, and 12 health with season 4 is not a lot.
No, it's not.
So Avarice and Greed.
Yep.
So like Avarice is picked up a point of armor, and Greed gets pick up for free.
Yep, that's absolutely true. Again, just we weren't seeing them played all that much, and so it's really just an attempt to kind of give them a bit of quality of life changes.
To be fair, you didn't see them a lot once they weren't allowed in Fish.
Because they used to make up for Corsair's big weakness, which was he didn't have another damage dealer, and he countered all of their weaknesses really well.
Yeah. Which is
really it just makes the package more efficient because they don't have to spend an influence for pickup, and they also just it just makes it more influence efficient, and it stops people farming Avarice for momentum quite as easily.
Yeah, the point of armor is huge.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
definitely.
Decimate, she's just had a bit of a playbook rework, hasn't she?
Yeah, she just gained a 4 damage dodge on the top end, which is also quite nice because it means the top end of her playbook mirrors the bottom end of her playbook in terms of she has momentous 1-2 and dodges on the bottom end, and then non-momentous 3-4 and dodges on the top end.
Yeah.
But the biggest change for her is the 1,000 cuts trigger on column 4.
Yeah. 1,000 cuts is big and clever.
Yes, 1,000 cuts is like an incredible play. I actually got told relatively recently that back during like season 1, when they were first working out Guild Ball, like right back before the Kickstarter, basically all of the death debuffs were an additional -1.
Wow.
So like 1,000 cuts used to be -3, Dirty Knives used to be -2, and Perkins was like, "No, this is so busted." Like,
that is mental.
And so like 1,000 cuts is the only play in the game that gives -2 death. You know, like there's nothing else in the game that gives -2 death. Like it's such a prestige character play, but it felt like she should just be able to trigger it. Non-momentously, of course, but a little bit lower on the playbook.
Yeah, because it used to be on the charge to get it realistically.
I mean, even then on the charge, like if they death stance, you're kind of it's not super.
Yeah.
Whereas now you can get it. I mean, not non-momentously, but on the charge you can get that fairly reliably, especially with anatomical.
Yeah, and then you've also got confidence in guild and stuff like that, so it's a lot easier to obtain.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And again, it's just, as with a lot of these union changes, it's just like, it's just quality of life. It's just small changes to make their lives a bit easier.
Yeah, which is fair. Which is nice. You do see that does seem, it's like little tweaks in the right direction. Do you want to do Grace and Benny, Rich?
I was going to say you talk about small tweaks, but
Oh.
then we've got Grace and Benny.
Okay,
Yeah.
small tweaks then. Let's do Ray. Let's do
No.
Jade.
It's cool. I think the change to these two were definitely needed
He gets them in
because
order.
you definitely had an Order 6.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Order have kind of been effectively playing with 6 models, I
Yeah.
think.
And they've not been doing too badly with it, to be fair.
No, they haven't. But definitely, like, I think Grace and Benny was ones that we wanted to buff, partially because, like, Benny for sure is just one of the coolest models we've ever done.
Yeah.
Like, he's just so badass, and he wasn't getting played, and that just felt like such a shame. And so we sort of looked at what he needed, and so lowering the tackle obviously makes him much better in Order, making his knockdown momentous again, and impart wisdom. It's a cool design space and it's a cool idea, but it doesn't really work.
You've never seen it used. It was very fine, like a very sort of small like opportunity to use it. So Playmaker is much better.
Yeah. Whereas Playmaker fits obviously very, very well with Order because they already have Ball of Light, and so they just have like their whole kind of package with Ball of Light just got even crazier. And also it works really well with Black Art and On My Mark.
Yeah.
It would give some real crazy options in there.
Yeah, and Grace is just fantastic now. Being able to use the character play for free.
Yep.
The 3/8 kick.
Kick's gone up.
And the legendary.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the legendary. The legendary just felt like giving, because she's a really good support model now, because she's a model that neither Union or Order kind of had before, which is a model that can do things with like a battery model, I think is the term.
Yeah.
Like a model that can do things without needing to spend influence.
Yeah.
And now like she's really good at that. Like much better than she was previously.
Oh yeah. She's like the
And
Union
her
hag.
Her golf
Yes.
threat is amazing.
Yeah. Of course, like because she can, for 2 influence, she can quick foot herself for free, sprint and shoot.
Yeah.
Which is
Well,
just.
She can use Reclamation because it's not a loose ball either.
Yeah. It's
So you could take it off an opponent, you could take it off a friendly.
Yeah.
gain
Take off
an
a friendly. Free pass it to someone else within Benny's aura. Dodge forward. Yeah. That's a thing.
Yeah. Union, or particularly Order just have so many options now for kind of doing mad things and doing really weird things.
Yes.
Yeah, I watched. It was at one of our events. Charles Nurser playing with Order. And it was just mental. Just going, oh, I'm going to do that. That's coming over there. That's doing there. I was like, oh, I can't keep track of what's going on. And it was just.
Yeah, and it was like before Vengeance 4, so in March.
Yeah.
So Fraser McFesher's like the blacksmith that we're talking about.
Yeah.
He was gonna play Vet Boar because Vet Boar had just come out, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna totally cheese Vet Boar." And then the night before, Charles Nurser beat him 12-0 with Order, and Fraser was like, "Dear God, someone get me some blacksmiths." Like,
yeah, Charles is a thing with Order. You've got to have that kind of Matrix thing where you can see everything going, all your options at the same time going through, and sadly I'm not clever enough to play them.
Oh, I agree. Like Order are a bit like kind of rats in that regard.
Yeah,
and in terms of if you can see into the Matrix and see all of the options, it's phenomenal. Like you have so many options and you have so much stuff you can do in every single turn.
Yeah,
exactly.
But yeah, I think your Order players definitely have got like a selection dilemma now when previously they didn't really.
Yes.
I think Harry is always still going to see the field because that free dodge aura is just far too good.
I think that's potentially very fair. Like Harry, and I think that's okay if he's an auto include in Order.
Yeah.
Because he's still he's very strong and he unlocks a lot of their options with Ball of Light. But now I think you have much more opportunity to bring either or both of these two models as well.
Yeah, personally, if you were going to really just double down on goals, I think Fangtooth might be a swap out.
Potentially, yeah. If you want to just sort of abandon the 2-2 plan and just go for a 3-3 plan, a 3-3 3-0 plan.
All right, fine. 18? 18 is 3-3?
Yeah. There you go. If you get to 18 VPs, like
You win.
yeah.
That's always been the same. That hasn't been needed since the errata.
Yeah, it's now 18 VP games. Sorry, we missed that bit out.
Oh yeah. Oh whoops. Did we not? Have we not talked about that yet?
Yeah.
Like, oh damn.
So, to be fair, there's not many more to go over. Morn, I think Morn's changes are one of the most interesting touched upon in this errata.
Good.
I think giving her control strings is just... I did not see that coming.
I think that was a Perkins' suggestion, and it's inspired, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Just the ability to, particularly comboed with the new legendary, just the ability to mess with your opponent's head and to move those auras around is phenomenal. Like,
yeah. Oh,
she's definitely another one that you're gonna have to put the reps in, because Morts have got two very, very, very good captains, and she's like a completely different way of playing, but she really, really interests me. I love Creeping Dread as well.
Yeah, I prefer Creeping Dread to Rise in Anger.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think it's one of those things that she almost works differently to particularly super solo captains, because she's the inverse of like Obulus or Scalpel, where with those models you put buffing influence on the rest of your team, and then your captain does the majority of your work.
Yeah.
Whereas Morn is you put some influence to put out buffs on her, and then the rest of your team does the work, and it's a kind of really interesting inversion of traditionally strong captains.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. She's just like a completely different. She's completely different. There's no way to do it, and I can't. It'll be interesting to do her legendary, and then for each activation, she's moving 2 inches in a different direction, and you oh my god, I don't know what's going on.
You just everyone all over the place.
Yeah, I think that's very funny.
So it's definitely. Because like obviously been talking to Luke a lot. I'm looking at changing teams again, and Farmers, Morts, Hunters are the 3 that are in the mix at the moment. So I'll definitely be playing a few games with Morn just to sort of see how well she sort of fits.
Yeah, I think she is definitely one that, like, I think still she's not as obviously powerful as either of the other 2 Mortician captains. Like, she's definitely one that you need to play, like, she's kind of like when I was talking about Yukai earlier, like, you need to play, like, 5 or 6 games with her just to get your head in, and to kind of get out of the mindset of, I'm going to dump maximum influence on my captain and they're going to do a bunch of work this turn.
Yeah, it's a complete,
But we thought that with Gaffer. If you get time, shameless plug, we played Gaffer versus Edge in the last game that we uploaded. Where we thought Gaffer would be sort of a really good support piece. We discussed this in the last sort of chat that we had. Whereas, you know, where sort of like your edges and things like that, they're very obviously powerful because they're like, I'm going to go score, but I'm going to die. Well, I'll get my goal. Whereas Gaffer, the stuff that he brings to the table after having seen it played, he's absolutely magnificent.
Yeah,
he really does bring so much. So he's not one of those obviously powerful ones where he's like, I'm going to go kill that player. He's very much sort of like, okay, but I've got the option to make you better at kicking. I've got, you failed to kill that player? Right, go have a Red Fury. It's just what he brings that really shines.
It was all the cool things. It was like Graves was attacking Edge at one point and he was short of killing her by 1 point. And I was like, okay, so I need to go and protect Edge now because Graves was a bit isolated. I was like, because I know that Gaffer can sprint and Red Fury Graves from like 11 inches away.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, that's a thing. I was like, right, I need to get edge safe now. Where is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we totally see where you were talking about last time, that they're really playing up their strengths, but also their weaknesses.
Yeah.
So really, really enjoyed seeing Gaffer used.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people will point out the whole now Malice isn't once per turn on Morn. The combo of that with Gaffer Whisper tokens is like nuts, but then you're bringing two models that are just purely like your captain and one of your squaddies are just purely set up.
Yeah.
So you have to have a lot of faith in your other three models to get work done, you know?
Yeah. Completely agree.
Definitely.
So the last four that we have to go over are just the cooks.
We've also not looked at Brewers yet, I believe.
We've not looked at Brewers. We've not looked at the Hunters. We've not looked at Rivet.
Well. Or Rivet, yeah.
Rich.
Oh yeah, good point. Okay, got all right.
You know,
So Rivet's an interesting one. What looks obviously like a very large nerf technically isn't if you look at the squaddies that she brings.
Yes.
Obviously, most of her team, it will make TAC 6 anyway.
Yep.
Obviously, Velocity and Spade would only make them TAC 5, but still, they'll still do a lot of work. But then Vet Velocity might see the pitch a little bit more being made TAC 7.
Yeah. That was basically, this was actually kind of weirdly a targeted nerf for Spade and Velocity. More than Rivet, because like it was more the big thing that we were troubled with was that when you have strikers that have a 4-long playbook and TAC 6, you can very often just wrap on a charge and hit like a double tack, or you can like it meant Velocity was very easily like surfing people off the table with a double push, double dodge.
We saw that.
That's what Ryan kept trying to do. He went in with Colossus, knocked down, singled out, and then sent Velocity in. Then Ratchet to free charge on Velocity. She was getting a double push, double dodge twice.
Yeah,
and just hitting and hitting
people off the pitch from the center.
Yeah. Last time I played against Rivet, I was playing with Wendell because I think you I think you need his damage output in that game. Yeah. But I literally put him on the center line between the two goalposts, and I was like, "You live there. Every activation, you're gonna get back to there." And yeah, so basically it's just an attempt to bring down the efficiency of those two models with Rivet, basically.
Which is fair. Which is completely fair.
Yeah, and also if it helps veteran Velocity see play, because I haven't really seen her played very much in Season 4.
No, when we seen the cards, we were like, oh my god, she's amazing.
Yeah, and then no one seems to actually be playing her, so if it helps her see a bit of play, I am all in for that.
Yeah, I love the model.
Yeah, she's a gorgeous model, like.
Cool.
But, yeah, I think Rivet's a fairly easy one to just sort of touch on and be like, yeah, her striking game, she was making her strikers too good.
Yeah.
That's kind of the long and short of it, yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Hunters?
We've touched upon Egret.
The close control's a big one for Egret.
Yeah.
Close control is huge, big and clever.
So, yeah, that one is as much really for Falconers as it is for Hunters, because the kind of one weakness that Falconers have always really had is that they have nowhere to really keep a ball safe.
Yeah.
You know, they have no model that has any sort of defensive tech that protects them against just someone grabbing the ball off them.
Yeah.
And so Egret is just now an option for them to bring. And she can shoot them and stuff.
Shoot into Harriers, that's nice.
Yeah, exactly. Like she can she can shoot into Harrier, she can do like various things, but the key thing is she brings a place for them again. If she's fighting like Fish or another team that has very high goal scoring pressure and good tools to get the ball. Falconers now have an option to put the ball on her and keep it safe a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I thought it was at the beginning of season 4. I thought Icarus was going to gain close control, but that may have made it a bit too good for him because of his movement ability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, we didn't want to put it. We didn't want to put it on Icarus because he brings Harriers, and it just he's not that type of striker. If you get me.
No.
Whereas Egret felt much more like a natural place to put someone that just wants to like hang back a bit and shoot people.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. And then JK, the forgotten man almost.
Yeah, like I don't think I've seen JK in season 4.
And he was on every team in season 3.
Yeah. He went from being I've never seen a model go so quickly with having no changes either. Like he didn't change going from season 2 to season 3 to season 4, and he went from every single lineup to none. Yeah. And it was just, again, this is a sort of like we talked about a lot with Union, it's quality of life changes just to bring him up. So like he's still basically the same model, he still does the same things, he still has the same role, he's just better at it.
Yeah.
Yes, he just does a little bit more damage.
Yeah, he does a little bit more damage, his playbook is more easily accessible, and he has better results when he is buying attacks.
Yeah. Good string on one's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Tackle on 2 now. He's just better.
Yeah,
that's the easiest way of putting it.
Yeah, that's kind of just it, innit? Like he's just a bit better now.
Yeah, he's happier.
Yeah.
So it's just Brewers now, isn't it? Is that everything? Apart from Brewers.
Brewers and Cooks.
Brewers and Cooks, yeah. Yes, of course.
It's a big one, this, isn't it? Like.
It's huge, isn't it? We're almost 2 hours. Thank you, everyone's still here. Thank you, Bryce, still being here.
No, it's alright. Don't worry about it. I like just talking about toys, like talking about Guild Ball, like.
So, just let's do Tapper first. Well, yeah, we'll do Tapper first. Because you've never really seen him since what's his name, Corker.
Well, Estes has been powerful since the start of season 4.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think it's the key thing with Tapper is that he doesn't currently, or I guess currently now, because when when people are listening to this, the errata will be out.
Yeah.
But like previously, he struggled to compete with Esters and Corker in the resource game because heroics are so important to Brewers.
Yeah.
And both of those models have options for using heroics without actually spending any resources to do so. So the key thing, Tapper does bring effectively 5 influence a turn, so he brings more influence that way.
Yeah.
And the other thing now is that with Barroom Brawl, he makes your team more efficient, makes your influence more efficient within the turn.
Yeah, Barroom Brawl, I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah,
and I like the increase of old Jakes. That's really nice. Going from 6-inch to 8-inch, just a little small tweak there that'll make a huge bit of difference.
Yeah, it's because we want Tapper to be like the role that he is intended to be able to play in is that model of like the guy that charges in, knocks down a couple of people, puts up commanding aura, now puts up marked target, and then is just sort of like, right,
get him, boys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's like, right. But the key thing there is he needs to be able to stay there for a bit. Like he needs to be able to stand for like a turn, for like an activation.
Yeah.
Before the rest of your team comes in. And so previously, you pretty much always had to, if you were going to do that, you had to also do Spigot and get times called up.
Yeah.
Now with Mark Target, there's a better chance that you don't need to wait for that second activation. You can just have him go do the thing, and then like Stoker or Decimate or Hooper or even Spigot, like one of your damage dealers can come screaming in with +2 move and a 1 influence charge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also because he's intended to be, and that was actually, sorry, the reason I got on to talking about that is that was the main reason for the range on old Jake's going up, because he's he does a lot of the time want to charge away from his team
Yeah.
into the enemy team and sort of start the fight.
Yeah. It's.
Yes.
I just really the one damage mark target on one is just really really nice.
Yeah.
As a charge for the charge result. But sadly, he's lost a triple push.
Yeah, well, the triple push, unfortunately, was a very cool playbook result, but it wasn't actually all that useful.
No.
Like it was very funny from a from a developer perspective, because like it's always fun putting silly things like that on playbooks, but it's not actually all that good.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been in the receiving end of the triple push, but when we first seen it, we're like, oh my god, triple push!
Yeah, whereas now you can still get a double push, but it's
double
three.
push
Yeah,
is the thing. Yeah.
3 double push is a hell of a result. Like,
But yeah, and it's increasing health to make him stand around a little bit longer.
Yeah,
Mark targets,
yeah.
I just really, really like him, and that pairs so nicely with Stoker. I was just looking at the numbers of the damage that he can do now with him gaining Searing Strike, which is just so good.
It's really very good. Also, one of the things that we really wanted to do with Stoker was give him a sort of defined role and give him some specific matchups.
Yeah.
Where you might want to bring him over, say, another Brewer model. And so now he much more has a role into those like high armor matchups, like we were talking about like earlier with Eb, like engineers,
Masons,
blacksmiths, masons, yeah. Anyone that kind of reliably brings a lot of 2 or 3 armor models. And Stoker now is much stronger in those roles, and is, as well as doing the -1 armor, he also puts out burning and buffs his own damage.
Yeah, so with under Command Nova, he's +2 damage, so he's got 4 on 2 at attack 5.
Yep, it's pretty good.
Yes, a bit of a result.
And they're at -1 as well.
-1 armor, they're probably going to be knocked down and crowded out if Tapper's already been in there. And he's tack 7 with Tapper.
Yep.
So he's probably going to be wrapping it in a Momentous 5 for non-Momentous 3 on the wrap.
Yeah, that's pretty
Brewer
good, right?
style. Yeah, that's
A lot of damage.
Not bad. Yeah.
But he still has many of the same weaknesses that he's always had, in terms of he only has a 1-inch melee, and he in a single activation, like, because Magical Brew is obviously really good, but he's a bit squishier than your average Brewer model because he doesn't have Tough Hide.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, he has the +1 armor, but overall I think Tough Hide is
Tough
well,
odds
I mean,
is amazing.
yeah, Tough Hide's really good. Like,
yeah.
and obviously it's matchup dependent, because like Tough Hide against farmers is incredible because farmers don't have damage buffs.
Yeah.
But against like blacksmiths, you're like, okay, I guess this 8 goes down to a 7, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know.
Against alchemists that have condition damage that ignores Tough Hide anyway.
Yeah. That's where Stoker's much better, because the +1 armor and Magical Brew is much more useful.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like him because I really like the Stoker model as well. And he's got probably, for a 1-inch melee going into him, he's probably got the best counter attack with just a double push on 1.
Yeah. He's got a phenomenal counter attack as well.
And a lot of people forget about that because they'll go in the net and he's like, counter, double push, off your pop.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
What have I done?
Silly boy.
Whoops-a-daisy.
Cool. So cooks then. Basically, I believe these are probably the last ones. Probably one of the ones that you get asked about the most.
I don't know what you're talking about. No one's mentioned them.
So obviously you've changed the 4 models out of the 6 2 that aren't going into butchers, because obviously butchers don't need the additional assistance at this point.
Yep, I would say that is accurate, yes.
So Pepper is one of the interesting ones for me. Obviously, getting the feral for the free attack is great for influence efficiency, but losing that cap of 3 reduces Pepper's goal run.
Yes, which I imagine most cooked players will just have to tearfully deal with. I mean,
well.
think of all of those Pepper goal runs you've seen wasted,
I
gone
saw it
forever.
every single Cooks game, Pepper gets a goal.
Really?
No.
But
No.
just the fact that your mascot can now go in and like generate momentum and put some damage, especially with intimidation.
And momentous damage on the first 2 columns.
Yes, exactly. So like he can now just sort of walk in and pretty reliably get some damage out, generate some momentum without spending any influence.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So leading on from that then, Spice lost get over here Pepper.
Yep.
But gained assist, which is a fair trade. As things go, that's a good trade-off.
Yeah, it's a pretty good trade, right? Like, basically it was because we kind of actually were like, okay, so let's put assist on there, and is it completely busted? And it was, but the thing that was busting it was her ability to pull over Spice with get over here wasn't necessarily, because obviously Spice is like, the Cooks are a damage-based guild, and Spice should be their highest damage dealer.
Yeah.
And her damage output just wasn't high enough previously, so that's why she's seen some pretty intense playbook buffs, and also like assist rather than get over here, and also Chef Special now affects character plays.
Yeah.
So Intensify is real good now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so basically, I think the interesting design element is, okay, you can't call Pepper over to gain the assist like that. It takes a little bit more setup. But obviously, if you go in first with Pepper for the setup, you really then make that issue of, do they want to try and disengage and proc Vicious?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like,
So
and
I
that
think
just...
It's just so good.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6. So it's tax 7. 3, 4, 5. So it's tax 7 with +1 damage on a part in blow if they walk away from Pepper.
And -1 defense.
And
With a 3-long playbook.
Yeah.
So you're potentially doing like 6 damage.
Yeah. So it's pretty good. Like, it forces your opponent to make that choice real quick.
Yes.
Or like, it's like, do you do that, or do you accept that model is probably just dead if Spice gets to walk in and hit them?
Well, what you've got to look at is Pepper is generally one of the models that receives Chef Special.
Yeah.
So then that makes Pepper's counterattack, parting blow even more.
Do you want to walk away? Do you want to walk away and take like 9 damage, or do you want to stay and take all of the damage?
I can't wait. But you're gonna hear this. You're gonna hear the stories, aren't you? With I took a part in blow, took 9 damage.
Yep.
off a mascot.
From a mascot. So again, that segues really nice into the fact that is it Sugar now has Chef Special as well?
Yep.
Yes. So
you've now got a double source of Chef Special.
Yeah, basically, what we felt that the Cooks were just a little bit too reliant on Wellington for that damage buff, and if he got taken out before he could activate, their damage just dropped for the entire turn, and so we wanted to give them a second source of it, basically, just to kind of counter that point where their lives got really very hard really very quickly if they lost Wellington before he activated. And let's not forget that they're still very squishy. Like I think they're still glass cannony, but now I think the cannon is big enough to match the glass.
I think
more cannon. It's appropriate. So it was more glass than cannon last time.
Yes. Yeah.
No offense, I think I described them as glass slipper when they first came out. Glass. But whereas now, you're right, they're definitely glass cannon.
It was definitely like the problem with them before was just straight up they got playtested in season 3, and then obviously there were some delays and stuff with them actually getting out. So by the time they got out, it was after the last errata.
Yeah.
And so we that was the first chance we had to actually change anything,
Yeah.
But yeah, like they were definitely playtesting season 3, and this just is bringing them up to season 4
Yes.
territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Sugar, I'm really really happy with the changes, because Sugar for me was one of the ones that got generally dropped to bring in Shank or Tenderizer.
Yes, yeah. Sugar was one of the less seen models now,
Yes.
or previously in the Cooks Guild, and now I think she actually is really competing for a space.
She is, because she fits that striker role that she's supposed to have. Because 6 inches on a striker was a little bit oddball, whereas you were just trying to set up icing on the cake. Whereas now, obviously, she has that flat 3/8, which is fantastic. Still has icing on the cake, but obviously, giving someone a 12-inch kick is a little bit preposterous. So,
Yeah.
So the stats are still the same. So she's
so the
still got
stats
a
are
5.
still the same, but it makes her a better striker overall, which I think is great. Sturdy's really nice because it's something different that you don't see on strikers.
Yep. And she still does that kind of snapshot turret thing.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit easier for her to score goals in her actual activation. Like, there's a little bit less kind of moving parts to make her work.
Yes, because the way when I've used her in games, I was generally just giving her 2 for the charge, proccing Fire Blast from the charge, taking the 4-inch dodge because she's put out the burning condition, and then she's basically sitting there at 8 inches waiting to kick the goal in. Sorry, well, 10 inches just to put the goal in, which was great. But then it gave the opponent a turn to deal with her.
Yeah.
Whereas I think she's definitely a lot more dangerous now.
Yeah.
And Cookout is amazing.
It's once per turn, Rich. Our cards are wrong.
Yeah, that was actually one we literally. That was one we literally discovered like slightly earlier today. Was the the media that one just hadn't. I don't know what had happened in the media file, but
for some reason the one that when the pundit thing went,
Yeah, because Chili Cookout under Chef Special doing 10 damage would have been just.
Yeah, that wasn't. Yeah, that
wouldn't have been okay.
Issue. Yeah. So it's just an older version of the card. Like, so it is actually once per turn.
But yeah, that's a thing. 4 damage and the burning. That's a thing.
It's pretty strong, isn't it? Like.
And trigger third column. That's a nice result.
Exactly. So I really think that they're going to be where they need to be.
Yeah, I think they're now. I think they're now, as I say, like I'm hoping we'll see a big bump in them, both in play rate and win rate. Basically, like they're much cooler now, and the as you say, the cannon's now big enough to match the glass.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm really happy overall. It's a huge errata. There's so much.
It is a huge errata.
It is huge, yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out that like most of the changes are small.
Yeah.
But they are, a lot of them are impactful. Almost all of them are impactful. Like the only ones that really aren't is there's like it is huge, but there are 9 models in there that are just there because they've lost Charmed or because we were fixing wording on the cards.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a big chunk as well.
Yeah, but exactly. it's still a really, really nice thing. So Bryce, which change probably are you most proud of?
Am I most proud of?
Yeah, because you had some big reworks within some of them.
Weirdly, I think actually like I like Stoker's change. I like Vet Boar because I think we've brought him down. I think we've brought him down nicely without bumping him too far over the top. I'm really excited to play Honor again.
Yes, same here.
Like that's a really good change. I don't know which one I'm actually no. The one I'm proudest of is getting rid of Charmed. Actually,
yeah.
Sorry, that's the one I'm proudest of.
Quite a lot of people will be quite happy with that because it was almost like a negative thing with just because my beta happens to be a female, I know it's a lot more difficult to kill this thing. Because my character card is male, and like Yukai, now it doesn't really make it like Yukai can hit the people the same without the death. The bear also has no death changes kind of thing, so it is just a nice tidying up across the board.
Yeah, and also as you say, like it's not it was largely a thing that I wanted to do, kind of just for for the impression and feel of the game. But it is also in rules wise, like as I say, like when I was playing with Tater and someone's trying to hit him with like vet chisel, like sorry, not vet chisel, like chisel or vet cinder or one of those kind of female beaters, and I'm just kind of sitting there and they charge and I'm like, all right, I'll death stance to 6,
Yeah,
and you're
good
kind of
luck.
like, this isn't fair. Like this model's not supposed to be that tanky, you know.
Yeah.
But
know.
it's not based on anything that either player could control.
Yeah.
And that was the key thing for me. It was just it just felt wrong.
It
Like
was just swingy and not random, but very swingy, and like it was a case of, oh, I've picked the gender of my character. Oh, great, my day is a
Yeah.
lot more difficult because I've picked a female player.
yeah, exactly. And that felt so wrong. And so that's the proudest change from
Okay. Just playing devil's advocate a little bit then. Pelage still hits men harder.
That's true. And that is probably something I'm going to look at in future, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, like I said, I literally just playing devil's advocate from the discussion is she does still deal more damage to men.
That's true. Well, I think it's different because she just hates men, whereas
she's got control. She can choose to go
represent-
into that person.
yeah, like there's that, and also it doesn't represent a sexuality or gender identity. That said, it's a fair point, and honestly, it's probably something I'll take out in future. Like this one was well, no, I can't sell take out. Perkins will tell me off.
No.
But
Luke's just getting upset because he loves Pelage.
It's in your notepad, Bryce.
yeah, it's in my notepad, and it's definitely a fair point, and it is probably something I will look at going forward.
Okay, cool. Sorry, not to bring the tone of the discussion down. It literally just crossed my mind.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest, I had actually forgotten that she had that killer male on her card just when we were talking about it in general. But yeah, it's a very fair point. Like,
So all rat catchers and Morts who are about to lose something on Pelage in the future, you can blame Rich.
yeah. Congratulations. How does that feel?
Great.
Getting the hatred of every single Mort and Ratcatcher player.
FY, Rich, one of them's Perkins, and he will know what guild you play.
I'll just convert to Morts and I'll be fine.
Oh, and well, I think that's a really, really good place to. Well, since we've run out of cards, it's a very good place to end it. But,
yeah.
Thank you so much, Bryce. It's been great having
We
you
really
on.
appreciate your time.
It's
No
a lot
worries.
of time that we've taken. And yeah,
Thank you very much for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Pleasure as always.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a lovely afternoon then.
yeah, you too. Thank you very much. Well, cheers.
Yeah.
Catch you guys
cheerio.
catch you next time.
So, thank you very much for listening to that. Thank you to Bryce for coming along. And
That was a long one.
yeah, was it like two-ish hours? I'm
2-ish
not-
hours, yeah.
I'm not going for that low-hanging fruit of you. Oh, that's a long one. I'm leaving that
Someone will get
low-hanging.
Someone will
leaving-
get a chuckle out of that.
Someone will be. Huh, that's what she said.
Plus, to be fair, low-hanging fruit is also replying to my comment.
Low-hanging fruit is. It's not an Inuit. Well, I suppose it could be.
Double bang for your buck.
No. I can't. No, I'm not rising to it. Again.
That's another one. See, if someone's just listened to us talk for 2 hours, they can put up with our dodgy puns at the end.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. So yeah, thank you so much to Bryce. It's been a real pleasure talking to him for this thing and giving us like 2 hours of his time for this one, and then an hour of his time for the previous one for the rookies. We really appreciate it.
I think we were probably one of the first ones to get a interview with him because he was mentioning having to do a couple of interviews after ours, a couple with time differences and things like that. So I think we caught him before he was sort of bored of talking over a load of them.
I think it's a big thank you to, but it's Sherwin, Perkins, and Bryce for this round of like for the errata and that who have committed so much time talking to all the media creators. And like, thank you on behalf of the media creators for giving us that much time. But I think we've probably talked enough, and people are probably sick the death of us.
Like no one's listening to this part. We can say what we want at this bit.
You want to do a like, share, subscribe thing, Rich?
No,
It's on YouTube. Do it.
it is. Okay, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'm pointing at my low-hanging fruit if you hadn't noticed.
Ding ding. Yeah.
So hopefully you guys, everyone enjoyed this. We certainly enjoyed sort of making this. I know Luke said it, but thanks again to Bryce for featuring. We really appreciate it. We look forward to talking to you again in the future.
And we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.
Catch you on the next episode. Oh, enjoy our Cooks versus Farmers game.
Yeah, which is also live. Thank you very much.
Which is also live. That's the first thing we've premiered.
Yeah, it is. Right.
Look at us all coming up YouTube content creators.
We say bye now.
Bye.
Bye.